Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's in-depth ag forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, here we are on Thursday evening, and we're looking back over the last 7 days of total accumulated precipitation. And of course, we had this very slow-moving low that came out of the plains here and just got stacked vertically, and it's taking a long time to clear through parts of New England. In fact, we're still seeing the wraparound showers on the backside of this through Thursday evening and into Friday. Now, this particular map I update every morning at midnight, so it does not include the strong storms that went through parts of the Carolinas this morning, but you can see the flooding we've seen down here in the south, all the way over to the southeast, some places picking up several inches of rain on a 3-day severe weather event that produced, I believe, over 80 tornadoes down here across the south. Now, a couple things we need to think about where the pattern is going. Areas that have missed out on this rain. Here in the northern plains getting into the southern Canadian prairie, down here in western Texas, much of the Great Basin in California. These are areas that will continue to struggle with drought, and we're going to talk about that in just a few moments. But I would like to just bring you up to speed on our latest update here from the Storm Prediction Center on keeping up with tornado counts, and we've now moved above average. So you can see here that the average number would run through here, and we've just moved above that. This, of course, was the big outbreak that hit Iowa back in early March, and then this is the one that we just saw here lately. So I just want to keep you up to date on some of this. Now, I made an animation and I put it in my morning report, so you've seen this if you watched me this morning, but I want to come back to it again. And what this does, there it goes, it starts over here. We're going to begin on the February 1st, and this is 16-inch soil moisture. Now, this has been a major topic of discussion, the drought area that's been through here. We've seen it relieved in the south and southeast with some bigger precipitation events, but the most recent one that went through worked hard on the Kansas, Missouri, Iowa region. So that's important to know, but out west in California, the reservoir's still hurting. Just to show you the latest data here, the big ones like Lake Shasta and Lake Oroville, 38% of full pool at Shasta, 46% of full pool at Oroville. And these two large reservoirs are critical to much of the success of agriculture throughout California. It's just two, but we're looking at it there. I'd also like to show you a great resource here, and this comes from California. This is their Department of Water Resources. And I'm going to go down here and click on this one right here. This was Daily Statewide Summary of Snow Water Content. When you click on the latest update, it'll open up a PDF, and this is pretty, this is getting pretty serious here. We're looking at percent of April 1st average and then percent of normal for this date snowfall. And you can see we're in the 40 to 50% range, and even some of the snow here in the northern Sierra and the Klamath Mountains is gone at this point. And what this brings us to is a broader discussion on drought overall, because of course this morning we did have a new update of our drought monitor. And still we're looking at it's about 70% of the land area in the United States in some form of drought. Now, I got a chance to travel the country a bit this week and gave several talks, and I got a lot of questions about the comparison of last year to this year. So I thought in Thursday's video today, we would do that in the next few minutes. So let's do that before we get to the long range. So what did the drought monitor look like a year ago right now? This is what I got. So this is this year, and this was a year ago. So what was going on a year ago? Major snow deficits here, getting into Manitoba, up to 40 inches. The drought area was worse because of the lack, remember a year ago, the lack of really strong monsoonal flow from the previous year. I'm talking about 2020. So we moved into drought that really hit the desert southwest. But by this point, we'd already worked pretty hard on eliminating the drought that had developed here in the central part of the United States. I'd like to show what I'm talking about. You know, I love to show you these maps from Iowa State. They're the precipitation ranks maps. Now, you're looking first at January 1st, 2021 through March 24th, 2021. And again, our major deficit areas were north and then here into New England. We had already received a lot of moisture, knocking the drought back in the midsection of the country. Now, take a look at this map real carefully here. I just kind of picked out some of the big bullet pointed areas. This is what it looks like this year. So the snow deficits have been here. Right? We've had an active pattern ejecting waves from the Mid-South to the Eastern Corn Belt. And just lately, this is mainly from the precipitation we just received, we're knocking back that drought that's in this area. But it's still very much in Texas. We've seen fire watches, red flag warnings down here. We've got them up for this region, of course, now. And this is one of the reasons why we're seeing such major problems with California. We now see that the numbers here they're having the driest start to any year since 1893. So that's a significant difference from a year ago, which looked like that. Now, what's important about this is to understand how it got here and what it means going forward, because I do have better news for California going forward. Will it break this drought? No, but it at least put something on there. So let's look at this next piece. What I'm showing you here was last year from the end of February through, well, basically through February 20th through March 20th. I want to know what that pattern was doing, which helped California out. The ridge was here. So we had better flow coming into the west. You don't see a deep trough, but there was better flow here because there was a ridge in the southeast. So things kind of opened up like this. Now, we did have a bit of a ridge that kind of went from Greenland over to this part of Europe as well. So the flow pattern overall was governed by those main features. Now, take a look at this. This is now February 20th of this year to March 20th of this year. Big Scandinavian ridge helped reinforce a trough from, the east, well, I guess we call this Hudson Bay, over here toward Greenland. So the jet stream's really been screaming in this area. But this ridge has been so close to the west that the flow's come over it and has kind of like dived into the United States right like this and then run up over this ridge. So you see, this is the difference a year ago versus now. Here's the other components that were different. Now, this is kind of fun. The MJO. What was it doing late December through this point in March? I love this analysis. So last year, okay, so, oh no, this is this year. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Here's last year. So the beginning of last year, right? So January through the end of March. Sorry about that. The MJO started here, went up over, look at this, into phase 6 and 7 in February, came right to here in March, see where we are, and then in March swept out like this. And I'll show you where it's going to go in a second, but that's what it did. Now, from here, okay, let's compare it to this year. The MJO at the end of December, going into January, started off in phase 7. It collapsed here in January, popped out briefly into phase 2 and 3, collapsed, and then came back to phase 2 and 3. What is interesting is that a year ago right now and this year, the MJO is currently sitting somewhere in this vicinity. And we got to ask where it's going and why is it going anywhere from here, because it's here now. And the MJO wants to pull back across null space. Now, here's my analysis of this. It has not been able to get past Australia and sweep around in a big arcing fashion like this. You know what happened last year starting about this time? It swept out from here and just went screaming around like this. In other words, the La Niña let go, the MJO took off, and that was what happened. I don't think that's happening this year. I think what we're going to see is the MJO is going to pop out in phase 4, where it is now, collapse into null space. It could possibly emerge weakly into phase 8 and 1, but more likely, just watch what I draw here, comes into this area and does another loop through the Indian Ocean. Now you say, well, what does that mean? That means we would give you a repeat of March in April. If that happened, that would be what that would signal. That's what I'm going to be watching. If the MJO fakes me out and does in fact come out over here, it's going to change the pattern in a big way. Now last year, when it swept through, we then went drier in the west. We saw wide open planting windows in April and May through parts of the Midwest, and it went dry over on the East Coast. See that? That's what happened last year because the MJO let loose and started running around the periphery. I don't think that's going to happen this year, and this is my reasoning. This is the current sea surface temperature anomaly map. We saw a big surge of trade winds, opening up some more upwelling in the colder water. We even saw here a little bit of warmth returning back into this area. Now, what's happening now? These trade winds have slowed down, but there's indications they're going to pop back out again, speeding up, which tells me that there's no way the MJO comes over here, which is phases 7 and 8. I think it's going to return back into this area, which means we put the pattern back on kind of a wash, rinse, repeat. Now, whether or not the models are seeing that, that's another story, and we're going to compare that in a few moments. But let's go take a look at the difference between last year's ocean temperatures and this year. So this is this year. This is a year ago. See how much more our La Niña had already faded? We had a lot of cold water here, which made us very concerned about drought risk in the midsection of the United States. But we saw this cold water fade pretty quickly as we went through the rest of spring. So again, 2021 in March, 2022 in March. Entirely different setup. This is an entirely different setup this year. Okay, what's happening that's really changing? Well, over there in Niña region 1+2, that is right here. We have seen the ocean temperatures really make a big rebound. Look at that. And this is what tells me that that NOAA's model, the one forecast, the CFS V2, which was keeping La Niña around all summer, I actually think that is truly the outlier. Remember, we looked at it on Monday. I think it's truly the outlier, and we're going to start to eat away at this La Nina, but probably not until the end of April into May. I think it's going to collapse quickly in May. That's my projection at this point, based upon some of the recent changes I've seen. Okay, now we've looked at all of that analysis, but we then now need to look at a forecast, and we're going to start with what the latest European model says. Now, I'm buying this. Remember how I told you? I said that it was too dry in this area. And now we see the latest run, which takes us out there from April 7th to May 7th, no longer prolonging the drought in this area. That's what happens when we shift that MJO around based on the movement of La Nina. So what I'm talking about here is starting just to pull it back around into those phases again. Because what did they just do? They produce storm systems here. And we're going to see that again. In fact, I'm going to complete this and tell you that I think we need to see four storm systems like the one you just saw in this area to completely eliminate the drought. You also see through the southern Canadian prairie and the northern plains of the United States getting the upper Midwest. The model has gone over wetter, and it continues to keep things wet where we don't want it, where we've had all the flooding in the lower Mississippi River Valley. The problem is, and I've said this 1,000 times, we still don't have a subtropical jet stream feature. So California is not going to show above average precipitation. But that's how we arrive at the latest forecast, which is what you see here. Okay? So that is what April into early May is going to look like according to the European model. We've backed that up with some evidence based on transition of the MJO, La Nina, and a quick comparison. Let me turn off my volume here. And a quick comparison from some other things. What's going on right now? I want to get into this. Well, I was looking at some satellite data today, and this is quite fascinating. You can see how deep the upper level low is sitting here, keeping all this cloud cover in this part of the Midwest. The surface system is moved. It's out, okay? But it's going to take a while. This is pesky. It's going to take a while to get rid of this. But it's cleared up in the central part of the United States, and you can start to see some things here about the snowpack I think we need to talk about. Like look at the Northern Sierra and the Klamath Mountains. No snow there. We have good pack in the Rockies, but this is the area that's in deficit at this point. Okay, what do we have? Well, we have wind advisories, red flag warnings here, and also down into parts of Texas, and all these little scattered shades of color. This is all river flooding in this area after the most recent event. So where we're taking this, let's talk about winds first. Oops, sorry. We're going to be seeing some strong winds coming in on Friday. See it there? This is now getting into Friday throughout the day, really plowing through out of southern Saskatchewan and coming in behind on this little clipper you'll see in a few moments. That's really going to increase the winds in this area. So that's the risk of the fire threat. But we have another system next week that right now is seen here. Now, that doesn't look like much, does it? There's a shortwave sitting right in this vicinity, a little ribbon of positive vorticity that's going to ride the flow like this and eventually get pulled across the mountains as a part of two different systems, one that hits the Northwest and one that hits California. And it's all set up on this stronger flow coming across the Pacific Ocean. And we got to have a good discussion about what that's going to do. Now, to show it to you, I want to go back to maps of vorticity because this is really what I think the story's going to, where the story's going to come in. So let's play through Friday, getting into Saturday. And what you see is, you see this little ribbon of vorticity here? That's where we get lift in the atmosphere. That's the little clipper that comes around the deeper upper level low that was that 4-day system that started here and is now working its way by Saturday still through the Canadian Maritimes. Well, this is the one that sneaks in behind it, brings in some cold air and a chance at snow. But the next system we're watching is right here. Now, this is the European model on Monday. There's a short wave there, and there's a closed low here. And what the European model does is brings them both in tandem, and this is a big change in the European model. It at one point stretched these two waves out, where it had them completely separate. Now it's got the northern wave here and the deeper wave to the south there, and what this is going to produce is a big central United States storm system. Now, just thinking about this and watching it come through here, I don't know, let's just leave it right here at 7 a.m. next Wednesday. The GFS, 7 a.m. next Wednesday, looks very similar. Do you see that? These two models just now came into agreement about it. And there are some subtle differences. Like, notice how the GFS closes off a low here, whereas the European does not. It leaves it as an open wave. Therefore, the GFS will have a stronger system, and I want to show you those differences. Ready? So GFS is on the left, European is on the right. First things first, we have the first system that leaves to New England. Here comes the clipper behind it, and that's the one that brings in the stronger winds. So you see the little clipper coming in there, and there it's in the European. That one goes over to the eastern Great Lakes, produces some lake effect snow on the backside, as you can see here. Stronger winds surround that system, and then it leaves by Sunday. On Sunday, we're now starting to watch these next two systems. So here's the GFS in its position of the low. There's the European. What we see is there's a northern wave right here coming through British Columbia and Washington State. Now, this is the one that delivers the much-needed precipitation into California. I'd love to see a dozen of these things between now and the end of April. That would be fantastic for California to revive the moisture they need, but we're watching them one at a time. Now, notice what goes on here. The European having the faster northern wave and the open southern wave develops the low out ahead. See that? Where's the GFS? It closes things off, is slower, and so it's later in the development of the wave. Notice the difference. 7 p.m. next Tuesday. See the differences here? I love doing this. This is kind of fun. Both of them in the overnight hours start to open up the first of probably a 3-day severe weather event that's going to start first in the plains and then move over here to the southeast. But notice how much faster the European is keeping the wave open. The GFS is slower. Therefore, the GFS returns more moisture to the central plains of the United States than the European. So the systems continue to move. They bring through on going from Wednesday into Thursday the severe weather threat here. And then as we go from Thursday into Friday, we see that that's going to stretch farther out Thursday night here into Friday morning over the southeast. So this will be a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday event. As it pulls on through, more snow wrapping around the backside. And then interestingly enough, the European's not done. It tries to bring in another system. Now this is way far out there in model La La land, but we need to watch for that as well. It's keeping things open and going. Okay, so let's take all this and do something with it. This should make sense to you now. Remember, when we look at these maps, this is where the GFS is wetter, this is the European. Notice the GFS is wetter here. Why? It's slower with the development of the low, brings it out slower, more chance to pull in that moisture. The European's faster and doesn't really draw on the most of its moisture until here. That's why you see this region showing up wetter and stormier. But the point is both models are producing a system here. And it looks like it's going to be coming over the mountains Sunday, Monday, emerging Tuesday, Wednesday, getting through the East Coast by Friday or Saturday. And the net effect of that is to deliver some moisture. Now let's see the severe weather threat. This is now getting out there Tuesday afternoon into Tuesday evening. So the GFS opens up a large area in through here that we could see some strong to severe storms. Going forward with this into Wednesday, we see once again Wednesday night, right about, we'll stop it there. This will be where we're going to watch Wednesday night. This is just a severe thunderstorm index. Then going into Thursday and Friday, see how it moves east? That's what we're going to be on the lookout for. So this is just telling me where we could expect to see strong storms. That's going to be to the south of that next system. What's the chances of getting an inch of rain? Chances of an inch of total precipitation. It's highest in through here where we've already got some flooding. But you notice, we do see moisture returning to an area that needs it. Next, we got to get some systems to come up here farther to the north. How much snow are we talking about out of this? Well, this is the probability over the next 10 days of getting at least 3 inches of snow. So we will get snow on the backside for New England. Got the clipper coming down here, bringing in the snow into this area. Plus the next system rolls up, adding more snow here. So that's pretty far to the north, but it is snow. Where are we going beyond this? Well, I look out here at day 10, and I see another trough digging in, and it seems to become pretty well established over the east. So that's a slow mover. That means it's going to be cold there. But overall, when you look at this pattern, if I just say, well, let's go out there and look at the week 2 precipitation, we do see that it's going to follow that trough. But notice our next system possibly coming in here once we get out there into the week of April. That would be system number 3 of the 4 that I say we need to break the drought in this area. We need more north and more south, but there's still time. We're just here at the beginning of April. The good news is that the Pacific Ocean is advertising a better jet stream pattern than it had been. And I like seeing a repeat of this if the MJO flings back around, like we said, into the Indian Ocean. That's why we did that analysis. All right, let's keep going here. What about temperatures? Well, this map just shows you, and I'll show it in every report. This is the next 7 days, everywhere in gray is where we expect to see a frost. We still have colder air that's going to get pretty far to the south. Let's check in on those high temperatures, though. So this was Thursday's highs. We've already seen that. You can see all the cloud cover keeping things cold into Friday. Watch the west, though. Temperatures 90 down here in central Texas. Some places 20 to 30 degrees above average throughout the west on Saturday, while the colder air just continues to funnel into the east, where that next clipper wraps itself around the backside of the broader trough that's over the east. So we're just splitting the country west to east on the temperature pattern. By Monday, the plains open up with some downslope flow and some warmth. But notice, by Tuesday, this is when the system is going to start to emerge here. So now we're talking about warm sector warmth. And as this system comes out, it's going to start to cool off behind it as it runs right in this direction. Slowly, but that's the way it's going to go. Day 5 through 10, now you can see the effect behind that system. So there's the cooler air here, including the snow influencing the temperatures as we get back into this part of the Canadian prairie. Day 10 through 15, remember the trough that was sitting here? That's the signal we're getting for some colder weather. So we're looking colder east and warmer west. And the models suggest if we go out there to week 3, into week 4 and 5, this is the more robust signal, not this. Okay? Don't. I don't like this. This is the more robust signal for cooler weather east. Okay, that's it for the U.S. We've now looked at the next month or so, and we've really examined it compared to last year. Quick stuff on South America. Interestingly enough, today on satellite, look at this. Had a very deep low that was sitting here and spinning over Buenos Aires into parts of Argentina, really right there on the very end of the Paraná River. And that brought in some precipitation into that area. Also, this is fascinating. Look right at these storms in through here. You can see some of that outflow. See it right there? Those are outflow from some of the monsoonal storms that are going through central parts of Brazil. Now, I just want to point out, in Argentina lately, they had quite a bit of precipitation over the last month that hit some of their prime growing areas. That's what this is showing here over the last month. So when you see that over the next couple of weeks we're going over drier here, this is not a major stress signal on the crop. We're still wetter in central Brazil, right in through here, and that, of course, is an area that was deep in drought. And we have an extended drier time period over in eastern Brazil. I'm talking about parts of Goiás, Minas Gerais, Bahia, Tocantins. Those areas have been dry for the last, 7 or 8 days, maybe more than that, drier, but we see continued dry signals. But Mato Grosso, where about 40% of the safrinha corn is grown, going back over to normal precipitation. So what I'll finish with here is to tell you I don't see much stress on that safrinha crop at this point. So I'll stop there. Thanks for giving me a little extra time today. Hopefully this answered some of the questions I was getting an email about comparing it to last year. I'll talk to you again on Monday. Thank you.